Welcome to the Pastor's Podcast. This is Pastor Scott, and I've got a treat with me today. We've got three guests, Josh and Ashley and Jasmine. Josh and Ashley Young, Jasmine Weis, and no Pastor Matt, so we don't have any like random
Thankfully.
haze. Thankfully. That's a strong statement, Josh.
He knows.
Yeah. he knows why.
He knew that was coming.
We are kicking off today something I've mentioned in the services, but we're going to be spending a little bit of time over the coming months just talking about stories of what God is doing in our midst, demonstrating the fact that God is redeeming this season, this particularly difficult and strange and odd season. He's redeeming it in all sorts of different ways. I think he's redeeming it in all of our lives, and getting to see that in some new and exciting ways is something that we want to share with one another. I know a lot of you get to see that in your life. I know a lot of you are getting to see that in the lives of those around you. And because we aren't gathered in the same way as a church family, we just wanted opportunities to get to share those stories and maybe even start some conversations. Maybe after this, somebody's going to come up to you, Ashley, or maybe somebody's going to come up to you, Jasmine, and be like, "Hey, I heard a little bit about your story. Like, tell me more about that." But I think this is a cool opportunity. Why don't we start just by letting you each introduce yourself? Maybe what brought you to Cornerstone, how long you've been here, and anything else you want us to know. Ashley, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Hi, I'm Ashley. Ashley Young. I'm Josh's older sister.
Important distinction.
Yeah, apparently there's been some confusion. So I'm a student at UCLA. I'm in my fourth year, and we came to Cornerstone a little less than a year and a half ago, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So you're fourth year at UCLA, and are you wrapping up this year, or do you have more time?
I'm wrapping up. I'll be finished in June.
Okay. Well, so I've got questions about what then, but not just the typical, because she's in college, and so I'm going to ask, like, what are you doing next? I actually have real questions because I know that there's something there, but we're going to save that.
Awesome.
So, okay, Josh.
Fantastic. My name is Josh, or Joshua. I'm Ashley's
younger
brother.
That's very important. Younger brother.
Yeah. Also at UCLA, I followed her here. And people can say, "Oh, blah blah blah," you just followed her, but she chose the best university, and so I just also chose the best university. It was not even an option.
Do you get a hard time for following her? Is that
no?
Like
No.
Early on, it was kind of like people would say, "Oh, that's interesting."
Of course.
Well, you initially applied because
But I did apply because she was there. That's true. That's 100% true. But I study religion and history at UCLA. We could talk about that if you want, because studying religion at that institution is quite a roller coaster.
So I did my undergraduate in religion at essentially a secular.
That's awesome.
place, so we could totally talk.
We
about
should
that.
talk about that.
I'm not sure it's going to be the most riveting content for this podcast.
We can say
but
that.
we should totally talk. Yeah, we should totally talk.
That's
about it.
great.
That's fascinating. All right.
Did you know I studied religion?
I did not, actually.
That's
I did
awesome.
not.
Let's talk about it.
Religion and history.
History is like my minor, maybe a double major.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm in my third year. The only other thing I would add is happy belated birthday, Matt. We love and miss you.
Yes. Matt isn't here with us. He was going to be here with us, and he backed out because he's like, "It's my birthday weekend. Like, I don't want to spend it with Josh." And
yeah.
So
happy birthday.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Jasmine.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Jasmine. I am a fourth year at UCLA studying business economics. I am dating Joshua Young and friends with Ashley Young, his
That's right.
sister.
Thanks.
And I started going to Cornerstone like the first week of December of 2020. It's my favorite church that I've gone to, and it's also the only church I've ever gone to. So
Well, hey, this is all the more reason for it to
Works
be your
out well.
favorite.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right. So you've been coming regularly for just like 3 months now.
Yep.
Right. And in the midst of the pandemic. So all right. So I want to get into that. I want to get into a little bit of that story as well. But why don't we start, Ashley, with how's the Lord been working in your life and heart over the last year? I know partially with some big plans as you're thinking about what's kind of next year, but both big and small. How have you seen the Lord working?
Sure. I can start with the big. It's kind of the easier thing.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I'm graduating this year, and so over the past year or so, I've been thinking more concretely about what I'm going to do after I graduate. And when I came into college, I was thinking of doing something like the Peace Corps or something of that nature after I graduated. I study international relations, and so that's kind of like a common thing to go abroad for a couple years and then come back for grad school, then enter your career.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of what I was thinking of when I came. But then in college, I became a serious Christian essentially, which is a whole nother story. But one of the biggest changes in my heart from that was that I now had this huge burden for people who didn't know Christ. And that was like the most important thing that I could think of to spend my time doing. Not just helping people like learn English or, like have sustainable agriculture or things like that that are really good that the Peace Corps does or other humanitarian programs do, but to tell them about Christ. And so, yeah, like last summer, I started looking for different opportunities that would allow me to do that, and just to see if there were different, like if that was even an option, and if it was, like what it would look like. And I found this organization that pairs recent college graduates with missions organizations for placements on mission teams like all over the world. And I started talking to them, like reached out to them and started having conversations with them. And long story short, I ended up applying to this team that primarily works with Muslim and Muslim background refugees. So they come from all over the world, really, and decided to apply. I've committed to doing that after I graduate, a couple months after.
Wow, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And so what is the team that you're joining? Like, what's their focus? Are they teaching? Are they training? Like, how are they facilitating their ministry?
Yeah, so it's a team of about 30 people. It's a pretty large team. The two team leaders, they have been there for about 15 years, and then other people have like joined them along the way. And because they have so many people, it's quite a wide ranging like system of ministries, I would call it, that they have. So the main focus is like sharing the gospel with people and planting churches. So they've planted a couple churches and have different fellowship and Bible study groups.
Okay.
And then they also do other kinds of things to like show God's love to people and build relationships with people, especially like in these refugee communities. They have so many needs and like you said, like lack a lot of social and political rights and privileges and things. So they help them economically to find jobs, to get job training, to find appropriate housing. They help people like access healthcare. They do a lot of work with pregnant mothers and like lots of women's and children's programs. It's hard to access healthcare when you, one, can't afford it, two, like don't speak the language of your doctor, and all sorts of other things. So they just try and like enter into people's lives and walk through their lives with them and share the Lord with them in the meantime. So yeah, it's quite an extensive set of things. They do English language classes, all sorts of stuff.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is so exciting. And I want to talk more. I have so many more questions. We might have to do, we might have to talk about this again before you leave.
Yeah.
Like specifically after this, and particularly as you get, more and more engaged with the organization and kind of what you're going to be doing, how you're going to be doing it. I'm excited to be able to both like send you out and also glean from that experience as a church. What's the commitment like? Are you going there for a certain amount of time, or?
Yeah, I'm committed to 2 years.
Okay.
And then see from there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, praise God for that.
Maybe 1 year in, you could do a remote update podcast.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's what's so
If the
great about the
podcast
technology.
survives that long.
Dude, it survived a year, and like a year ago when we launched it, it was like, we think maybe somebody will want to listen to
Ashley's
this.
a
I
faithful
listen.
listener.
I'm a fan. Yeah.
We're not gonna have to ask you whether your favorite like dynamic there, but we found it a really helpful way. I found it a really helpful way just to encourage and get to even have some of these conversations. So,
Yeah.
okay, so I want to talk some more about that. I want to come back though.
Mhm.
Big picture wise, we may do something, but it's so exciting what the Lord's been doing, and even in this to kind of prepare you for
Mhm.
and bring clarity
Mhm.
over last year into what
Yeah.
He's calling you into next. Okay, but I do have one follow-up question though. So what was that transition of focus like for you, over even, I don't know, the last year or so? What led you to say, okay, this is something that's not just worth like, oh, I want to look into this, but um brought you to a point of applying with this organization, deciding to, after being
Mhm.
accepted, deciding to go. Was it like one moment where you're like, things changed, or was it just kind of a progress or
Mm.
a succession of steps for you?
Yeah, I think there was like a big catalyst, and then there was a lot of like little, like just one more step, one more step.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I uh, never know quite how to say this. Either became a Christian or began taking my faith really, really seriously in my sophomore year of college.
Okay,
Um,
a similar thing happened to me, and I'm not quite sure
yeah.
like how to describe it, but yeah, whatever. The Lord did a work.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
for sure. And
That's all.
God really got my attention at that time. And um, yeah, like I said, this burden of people who didn't know Christ was just overwhelming to me to realize that, well, I guess like a short version is that I realized, like, I think for the first time, who I was as a sinful person. And I realized who God was as holy in like a completely new way that I had not fully grasped before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's obviously a huge problem when you don't yet have Christ in that picture to reconcile you to God. And I, like, by God's grace, found that and realized that that was true and like applied that to my own life. But in doing that and taking hold of that for myself, I also had to reckon with the fact that a lot of people don't yet have this like redemption in their lives. And so that was quite, it was a lot for me. Honestly, it was like hard for me kind of to be in like public places with a lot of people for a little bit, because I would just look around and like I couldn't help but to think like that these people don't know Christ and they may never know. Um, but over time, that kind of got channeled a little more properly into something that was still like a huge burden, but that also made me more bold in sharing my faith. And that gave me this like great desire to tell others about God and to make his name known. Um, so that really set it off, was like that recognition, that realization that that was a reality for so many people. But then, as I started thinking like, okay, well, how can I um, m- take this and like put it into something that actually changes how I live? Then that's when um, the idea of joining a missions team rather than doing the Peace Corps or something like that started to run through my mind. And yeah, I think there's been a lot of um, things that God has really, like people or different things that God has used to point me, I think, in this direction and to encourage me. Um, right after I decided to apply to this team, I was in like the first night of one of the women's Bible studies on Zoom that Cornerstone has. And this woman was like, everyone was introducing themselves, and this lady was like, "Hi, my name is Karen, and I did missions for so many years." And I was like, wow, I don't think I even heard anything else she said. I was like, that's so perfect, because I'm just, thinking about this. And so I was able to like contact her and share with her what I was thinking. And she was able to encourage me and just things like that. Realizing that there's connections in this church to people who have done ministry there that I didn't even know about, or ways that God has provided, like for me to start learning language already, that I wasn't even aware of, that have just like continually pointed me in this direction and like affirmed that
Mm.
this is something that God wants me to do, and this is where my heart is, and like most importantly, this is where He has shaped what He has shaped my heart to do.
Mm.
When I came into college, I wasn't even like really interested in joining a church, much
Yeah.
much less like
Yeah.
going abroad to do missions after I graduated. So I think seeing how much God has changed my heart has also really been something that has just pushed me even more, because I see His faithfulness and
Mm.
His goodness and the way that He has grown me, and that just makes me want to
Mm.
like enter into that even more.
And it makes me want to enter into it even more. I mean, I so appreciate you sharing that. It's just so cool to see what the Lord's doing in that, and so encouraging in that. So, anyways, thanks, Ashley. Like I said, I got a bunch of other questions, but Josh and Jasmine, I want to talk to you guys too. Josh, so where are you going, Josh? No, I want to hear just a little bit about what the Lord's been doing in your heart and life over the last, number of months, over the last year. I mean, as you think back to how God is working, what He's been teaching you, how have you seen Him at work?
Good. Yeah. It's always nice to hear Ashley talk about like her sophomore year of college and stuff like that, because it reminds me of when I was in my freshman year of college, and that's when I made Jesus Lord of my life. And I think since the very start of that, I was always kind of just drawn to people. I've always been drawn to people in like a social way, but now that I had the Lord in my heart, I wanted to share Him with them, and or whether they be a non-believer or even like Christians, I wanted to let the Lord speak through me or whatever. But it was always like kind of a lot. Like I've always like been around a lot of people, always been very social, and like I think from day one I've found myself trying to learn what the Lord wants me to do, and learning to let Him lead in the relationships that I have. And I think when you asked me like what He's been teaching me recently, that's what I thought of even right now, which is that like I have, a group of friends that I live with here. I have a group of friends from back home that like different things are happening. It's a weird period for me being a junior. Like a lot of my friends are seniors, already graduated from college. And, like one of my friends is getting married. Other friends are like getting new jobs. Jasmine, my girlfriend, and Ashley, my sister, are both graduating. So a lot of things are going to, like a lot of relationships I'm seeing a lot of change in their life. Whereas my situation is going to be like staying the same for another year. I'm just going to be finishing school, And so that's the weird thing about having like mostly older friends, but finding myself like trying to figure how the Lord wants to use me, or use me and the people around me.
Yeah.
Because I sometimes, it's often been a theme for me where I kind of get overwhelmed thinking at certain times, thinking like, oh, I just had this conversation with this person about God, or I had this conversation with a classmate about their religious background, or this, person I work with about philosophy or something. And it feels like a lot. And it feels like since I started all those like projects, since I like planted maybe some seeds, then I have to like follow through and like do all the different parts and like try and continue. But what I've, in my experience, at least in the last 2 years, like whenever I'm trying to do a lot for a lot of people, I just figure that I get less done for everyone. But then when I really try and give myself a lot to somebody, whether it be a friend or a coworker or someone like that, that's when I see the Lord bearing the most fruit. But then it's like, how am I going to decide who the Lord wants me to try and minister to or share the gospel with, or even just talk through any Christian issue with or whatever? I can't decide that. And so I guess what I'm trying to learn this school year, especially since things are a little weirder now, is like where does the Lord want my focus to be on? Like, who does the Lord want to use me as an instrument for? And so there's different people in my life right now that I can think of. And sometimes like, where I have an issue where that like I tend to only be where I am. So if I'm in LA, like I do it poor job of like staying in touch with friends from home. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm there, I don't stay in touch with people from school. So I'm trying to, figure now who maybe I can try and focus on and show value to. Because I think, especially in the last year or so, a lot of people don't feel valued by people around them. Maybe it's because, but like by their closest friends, maybe not having like given them the time of day, or made the extra effort. Because it takes extra effort to like have strong relationships right now, or even just strangers, And so trying to just do little things like invite someone for lunch or like get like tacos or anything like that has been ways that I've been trying to see. And then I just try and see how conversations go. And I think the Lord is showing me more like doors that are open or like hearts that are soft. And then I don't know, trying to follow through that, trying to walk through the open doors. A favorite verse of mine has always been from Proverbs 3. It's like, acknowledge him in all your ways and he will direct your paths. And I find that what it means for me, at least, to like acknowledge him in all my ways is to acknowledge that he's the one opening doors and stuff like that. And so if he's opening them, I should be walking through them. That's part of how I ended up at this church or like joining this church is Ashley and I came here, the week before school started or something. And we just loved the service, but that wasn't going to like sell us to join the church. We probably would have checked out other ones. But then the very next week, the second week that we would have attended was going to be the first intro to Cornerstone class. And I was like, look at this open door. This is definitely like a way that we can kind of go in and take an intro to Cornerstone class, like learn about the church. Even on our second week there, I was like, if it was the first week, we wouldn't have gone. If it was, later down the line, we wouldn't have known about it. But it was the second week. So I saw that as an open door, and I wanted to acknowledge God in that. And so we took the class, and then we took the next class, and then we joined the church, right? And so that kind of thing is how I want to apply to my relationships. If I see that there's an open door, I have to realize that God opened it, and then that's just where I want to walk.
Yeah.
And so that's like probably sounds kind of abstract, and it kind of is, and that's why it's
well,
hard to like. That's why it's hard to learn, but
yeah,
that's what I'm trying. I don't know.
No, I really appreciate that because I think it's kind of abstract, but in a lot of ways, actually, I think it's really practical. Right? I think it's what it looks like to depend on God each step of the way, right? Every moment by moment. I think it's that kind of God awareness that that inspires. I mean, I think that's what Paul talks about when he's talking about praying constantly, right? Or praying without ceasing. It's just this constant awareness that is really and asking God, okay, show me, what does that look like as we walk through. So I appreciate that, and I think that's something that probably bears more fruit in our relationships than anything else we can do.
I agree.
Yeah, so that's really encouraging. So Jasmine,
Hello.
Thanks for being here too. So you just started coming to Cornerstone a few months ago.
Yep.
What's your story? I think I've heard it's been a bit of a year of transition and transformation for you. What brought you here? What's the Lord been doing in your life?
The Lord entered my life first and foremost. Apologies to Ashley and Joshua. They've heard the story so many times.
Still good.
Still good.
But so basically, I grew up like not religious at all. My mom's Jewish. Like I had a bubi, which is the Jewish word for grandmother, but very secular. And like grew up in the Bay, like went to public school and like didn't know much about religion, even Judaism. Didn't really care to know much. I think my perception of people that were very religious, especially Christians, was pretty negative. I don't actually think I knew. Am I close enough to the mic?
Nope, you're
Okay,
good.
Cool. I don't think I actually knew many Christians, but I just like made a lot of assumptions. And I think I went to church like once with a friend in high school. So yeah, I just like, and I never felt like I needed it. Like I'd always been really happy. I'd always had a really comfortable life. And I think I definitely saw religion as like a crutch. I was like, oh, well, like, that's good for people who feel like they need it. But like, I check all the boxes. I do all the things. I'm pretty content with my life. And I just don't I don't need it. It's not for me. But I guess like, good for people that do need it, but it was a little condescending. Like, I'm better than that, but like, sure, if you need that crutch.
Totally.
And then
I need it, man. Religion is for the weak.
And then I came to school and UCLA, and I started learning more about Judaism because one of my close friends that I met there named Layla, we would go to like this Jewish fellowship thing. And so I would spend a lot of weekends like in Orthodox Jewish communities in Fairfax for Shabbats. And that was really interesting. And I think I helped like peel off some of the layers of like prejudice I had against people that were really religious, because I was like, wow, like these are nice people and they seem really happy and they really believe what they believe, and that's still not for me, but good for them. So yeah, so I felt like I'd learned about it, and I was like, and I really appreciated like the cultural and like ethnic aspects of Judaism, and it helped me feel close to my Bibi and my heritage, but nothing more than that. Definitely nothing like spiritual or anything. I found that like I would ask the rabbi questions, and like the answers I got were never satisfying. And I was like, well, if I'm not going to be Jewish, I'm not going to be anything, like, because Judaism would be the only one that would make sense. But then last year, my junior year, I started working at UCLA's financial wellness program. My coworker was Joshua, who was just talking about, like where to focus your energies when you're talking to people and sharing the gospel. And he chose to focus on me. And so because of COVID, I ended up not studying in Barcelona like I was supposed to. And so I kept working virtually spring quarter of last year. And my coworker that I was like on all these calls with was Joshua. And we would have appointments come, but if no one came, it would just be us like on Zoom, just staring at each other for several hours. So we figured like we may as well pass the time. And so we started talking and hanging out, and I started...
Wait, just over Zoom?
Just over Zoom, yeah. Literally just... I mean, we'd known each other before, and we would like talk in meetings, but I didn't really know him. We did destroy the team in one kayaking competition on a retreat.
That's true. It's like the kind of work is like we have basically office hours. So we have like a 4-hour block where we're on Zoom, and maybe there's an appointment or a drop in or something, but most of the time it's just us two.
And so you have to be on Zoom the whole office hours?
Yeah. I mean, we would do other things.
We wouldn't just like...
We wouldn't just
talk,
stare
at each other and talk. Sometimes though.
I'd go for a swim or like something. But.
See, I for all of the members of our church staff who are listening, I just want them to appreciate the fact that for our office hours, that we're like, hey, here's some office hours. We're like, it's good for us all to be available, especially since we're not in the same place. I just want you to be grateful that we don't have you on Zoom the whole time. Right? Like, just make sure you're on Zoom. Like, yeah, that must have been.
It could get tiring.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Anyways.
Sorry.
All good. So, I mean, I did know that Joshua was Christian. And so even though I started to like him, that was sort of like obviously a deal breaker for me.
Obviously.
And we started talking about religion, as Joshua is really good at bringing up to people. I've seen it happen with others. And he actually sent me a Bible. And I thought he was joking because I had mentioned that I'd like never touched the Bible, never read it. And like Amazon shipped it to my house, and my mom like opened the package because she thought she was getting a package, and she was like, she like held it up and she was like, Jasmine, why did you get a Bible? She was like so confused, and I was like, oh, that's my coworker. And she was like, oh no, is he trying to convert you? And I was like, oh no, like it's just for fun. Just gonna look into it. So we started reading Proverbs together over Zoom. And learned a little bit.
On work time?
On work time.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's right. That's great.
Hopefully our boss doesn't
great.
hear this.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked.
That's okay. And yeah, so that was good. I was definitely very surprised by like the depth of the Bible and what it had. But I still treated it mainly as like stories, and I was like, oh, this is cute. And then I by the end of like the spring quarter, I realized like I really liked him, which was kind of frustrating because there was definitely a major roadblock there. And I obviously didn't know how he felt about me, but I assumed like he probably, knowing I was Christian, wouldn't even like me.
Wasn't.
What?
Yeah.
Knowing you weren't.
Yeah, knowing I wasn't Christian. And so, but then he came to the Bay Area over summer because he lives there where I happen to live. We're like 30 minutes apart. And I asked him like a favor to bring something up from LA. And then we started hanging out. So we would hang out like once like a week on Saturdays. We spent all the day together, and it was really nice. And we would we'd hang out, we'd go on hikes and stuff. We'd also like talk about God, and he would like share the gospel
or whatever,
as you do casually on a hike. And so there was like a lot of moving parts because I really liked Joshua, and we realized we liked each other, but what were we going to do with that? And then I had to confront this whole other thing I'd never even considered, which is like, yeah, like, what is life? Like, is there a God? Like, what does all of this mean? Like, what happens after you die? Like, things that I'd always thought, like, I was content with just not knowing, like the ambiguity. But like, to see someone like so confident and like so genuine in what they believe was really shocking to me, and so I embarked on like this my own journey of like being like, all right, well, what is the truth? Like, why does this person that I really like and like besides this is like so great really believe this thing that's crazy, like come on. So I and then like over summer we sort of like stopped talking, like we reached this roadblock because we're like, well, how's this gonna work and stuff, but during
and you weren't in the exact same place Josh was, so he forgot. That's what we just learned.
Right.
No, she was north of Bakersfield, so she's in my bubble still.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I started just like researching things on my own, and I wasn't like necessarily looking for answers. I was more just like looking to see if Christianity was wrong. Like I just needed like validation, I guess.
Validate. Like you needed to know that like this was.
I just needed to be sure that like this wasn't worth considering. And so fortunately, that wasn't the case. Like the more I learned, he recommended Mere Christianity to me by C.S. Lewis, and I read like Lee Strobel's Case for Faith and The Case for Easter, and I started like watching videos online and reading all these things, and like literally
the Gospel according to John.
And read John when we got back to school.
Somehow
which
you
I was
always
getting
forget
to.
that you read the Bible itself.
I haven't even gotten to when we were back at
Right.
I was gonna work up to it. Anyways, so fast forward, we go back.
Josh, this is her story.
Oh, right.
All good. We go back to school. I'll just skip ahead so we can get to the Gospel of John. And we
love it.
We live like a minute apart from each other, and so we started hanging out again as friends. And we read John. So like I read the Gospel of John, like I read legitimately something all the way through in the Bible. And there was some really compelling stuff in there. And there was this whole like intellectual aspect of it. Like I really had to be convicted intellectually that this is something that could even be in the realm of possibility. And then I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Still not convinced though.
Yeah,
like
it's in the realm of possibility.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just realized, I'm sure not the first person to realize, like, it's not an intellectual argument. Like, it's not an intellectual belief. Like, you need that. Sure. Like, there's a reasonable logical component, but there's like the spiritual component. And for me, I think a huge barrier was like pride and thinking like, oh, but I'm already a good person. Like I do all the right things, and stuff. And so like, it like really rubbed me the wrong way to hear like, people are sinful because that means I'm sinful and like I'm not the center of my own world, and it had a lot of implications, and I didn't really like that, and I just couldn't like really get past that. Like I was so frustrated because I was like, this could be true, but I still like, what do I do now? Because I still don't feel like I'm connecting to it. When I started to tell friends that I am Christian, I explained it as like, it was like I spent most of my life like in a room, and I was like the only person in it. And everyone else I knew was also like in their own separate rooms, and they all agreed that there was no one else in the room but them. But then like Joshua was the first person I met that was like, no, someone else is there. You can't see them, but like they're there and they're with you. And so like I started to explore that, and I realized like, you know what, he might be right. Like there is someone here with me. Like, what am I going to do about it? Like, I can either accept it or I can ignore it, but it won't change the fact that someone is there, So I just realized, like, whatever I do going forward it's not going to change what I've learned and, like, know it to be true. So I need to figure out some way to, like, reconcile this with my life. And so, yeah, so basically, like, other things happened, too. Like, I did some things to, like, hurt other people and stuff. And, like, it was the first time I had this context of, like, why did you do that, And, like, oh, not just because, like, oops, like I made a mistake, but like there's actually like something that's like missing the mark, like literally what sin is in there. And so having that context really shifted my perspective. And yeah, and so it wasn't an intellectual thing. Like I needed that, but like I really had to, for me, I had to realize like I need this. Like I need this. I need Jesus, I need God. And all of this is like true, and I need to like submit to that. Is the point I reached. And that is really hard to do because I mean, there's like so many things for me, like my friends, my family, like even the university we go to, like every preconceived notion I had about religion, there was like all that. And then there was God.
Yeah.
And then God won, of course. It was like hunting me down. Yeah. And it was like, there were so many like signs and so many things that like I couldn't explain. And so anyways, yeah, literal signs. Like literally I started praying early on, even before I really like felt like I believed in God. And I near like closer to December when I was getting really frustrated, like I would read more things and it was like, yeah, okay, like this makes sense, but why am I not connecting to this? And so I like prayed to God and I was like, help me out, like send me a sign if you can, anything. Not that I necessarily deserve it. And I know there's probably better things you could be doing with your time, but like, please like show me something because like I don't know what to do. And then I kind of forgot about it and I went to walk to the grocery store. And on my walk to the grocery store, I passed literally 3 separate cardboard signs about Jesus that I'd never seen before. Like 3 actual literal
Actual
cardboard
signs.
signs. 3 of them on my walk. Never seen before.
Amazing.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah. So yeah, he was hunting me down.
Yeah, totally. And with his own like just unique, perfect sense of humor.
Right.
Right, yeah, he's just
Definitely.
doing it. Yeah, totally.
Definitely. Like
Style.
really
And they're
met me
nowhere
where
to
I
be
was.
found either.
These
Right.
cardboard signs.
They're
Nobody's ever
gone.
seen them
They're
again.
gone.
Yeah.
Scott, that day actually was the day that we came up here and I asked you to give me Case for Faith.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
That was the same day. And when I was flipping through it during my lunch before I gave it to Jasmine, the part that stuck out to me was this part. There's something titled like "Don't ignore the signs." And so when she told me, she sent me a voice memo or a phone call or something about that story. And then I just like gave her that part of the book first. I was like, I just read it. Like, don't
I think you
ignore
should
the
read
signs.
chapter 6 or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it is.
exactly.
Oh, that's incredible. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Um,
So I mean, how like, yeah, I imagine that turns out like you said, it turns a lot of things
mm,
upside down.
yes.
Right. Makes I think sometimes we can think of that as like, oh, okay, like I walked into this and like this is great, but coming to grips with the reality of God, with the reality of the person in the room,
Mm,
and learning step by step what they're like, right?
Right.
And the truth of the gospel and that. I don't know. How has that transition been like for you? Has it been difficult? Has it been like complicated? Like what's how have you navigated that? I mean, and to whatever extent you're comfortable
Right.
sharing, but
Yeah, no, I'm definitely fine sharing. In some ways it's been easier and in some ways harder, I would say. Like I was surprised on both ends of the spectrum. I had some friends that I told that were like incredibly loving and supportive. One friend in particular that I mentioned, Layla, who's been like so amazing and awesome and like really genuinely like cared and wanted to hear me out. And then there were my parents, which was like terrifying to me to tell them because a lot of my preconceived notions about, like Christians and people that were religious, like definitely came from them. And I'm an only child and I was just really just so worried that it would harm our relationship. And going back home over winter break, like it really was stressing me out. I knew I had God though. And
so like, I mean, yeah, just like two months ago, winter break.
yeah, literally like
Yeah.
just then. And
Yeah.
so I, like prayed about it, consulted with people and I ended up telling them and it went surprisingly well. Not ideal, obviously. Like right now we're sort of in like a don't ask, don't tell policy where they're like, okay, that's good. Thumbs up. Let's talk about something else. But they love me unconditionally. And then I have some friends where like one friend in particular that was like not so pleased about it. Who was like Jewish, like secular Jewish, but was like really like I think disappointed by it. And I think it really like forced him to confront a lot of his own beliefs about the world, which I know from like firsthand experience is scary. So that hasn't been so good. That's been tough. And it also has like a lot of implications for my life. And it's just hard because like I am different now. And so in some ways, like there's a separation from the people that like I do know and love. But in other ways, like I meet like people at Cornerstone, like so many new people, and the opportunity for so many new relationships. And that's been really awesome. And also like the most important relationship of all with God, it's like this lifelong journey that I get to experience. So.
Oh, so incredible. I mean, it's so incredible to hear.
Isn't she great? Come on. It's Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I was thanks for sharing your Valentine's Day. Josh has got puppy dog eyes over here.
Will you be mine?
No, it's so cool to hear, and just even to hear these are just snippets. I mean, these are just like little snapshots, right? Of obviously like these huge stories, all that the Lord is doing, all that that are made up of hundreds of different moments, right, and dynamics and fears and excitements, but all getting to see His faithfulness each
Right.
step of the way. See the reality of
Yeah.
his existence every step of the way, and I think in that way it really does beautifully. Not it's not able to be encapsulated in a a little story or share, but hopefully even just in us getting to share some of these dynamics and some of what even a snapshot of what the Lord's doing, it reminds all of us of the different things he's doing in our lives, and it encourages and really points our hearts. I know it points my heart to just glorify him, because this is what he does,
Mhm.
right? This type of redemption, this type of directing, this
Mhm.
type of taking our lives and just step by step put us the right way, even in the midst of seasons that are really weird and challenging, or fears, or unexpected unexpected outcomes. And so I'm just so thankful for that, thankful for you guys to share that. I would love um uh well, two things. I think as we wrap up, I'd love to hear um if there's any particular way we as a church family can be praying for you, and secondly, if there's anything good you are reading or have read that you would uh yeah, recommend, or even just that you're particularly enjoying. And it could be a Christian book or a non-Christian book, or it
Yeah.
could be a magazine article, or a blog or something. But I didn't give you the heads up for that ahead of time, so if you're like, I don't know, that's totally fine. But how can we be praying for you? Why don't we just start? We'll go around the circle again. How about we start with you, Ashley?
Sure. I'll just share what I've been praying for myself, and then
Yeah.
so you can join in.
Awesome.
I think this is kind of like can feel like a season of waiting. Like we're waiting for COVID to be over. I'm waiting to graduate. I'm waiting to
Mm.
go to Turkey. All these things, and I guess just I've been praying that I would still be making use of this time now, and that I would still be actively pursuing God now, rather than just waiting for him to begin working later.
Mm,
Because like we all shared, we've all seen him already working in our lives, and we know that that is a reality. And so it's just my prayer that we would continue to acknowledge that and continue to pursue like a deeper relationship with the Lord, even now, even as we're waiting for the future, and even as we're waiting for him to continue to work in new ways.
mm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We'll definitely be praying for that, for you, and hopefully for ourselves as well.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, it totally resonates. That is so good. Yeah, thanks, Ashley. What about you, Josh?
I think that what Ashley just said is an eloquent way of saying what I was thinking about, like for our church or Christians across the world right now who might feel similar to Ashley, or even just don't know like what roles they can be playing. But I just want to pray alongside whoever's listening to this that we all, as members of the body, would be eager to play a part in building it up, and we would really make distinct efforts to reach out to people, to meet with them, to build relationship, to share in prayer, to contribute to fellowship or the needs of the other saints, whatever it is. I think that, if we're just going to wait till something's over, then we might be waiting for a long time, or as soon as it's over, there might be something else. But we just have to act where we are. I said earlier that it's a problem that I'm only where I am, but that's also something that I think can be helpful, is to actually be where you are. Right
Fully
now
where you are.
we're waiting, so let's be here, but let's do stuff while we're here. And then the other thing, I would just really ask you guys humbly to pray for my relationship with Jasmine, and that the Lord would continue to shed light on us and through us, on the people around us, that our relationship itself would be an example, but also that individually we would be examples to the people in our respective lives.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Josh. Yeah. And Jasmine, how can we be praying for you?
Going last sucks.
Does it? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I can't follow this. They said all the things. Okay, this might be like a little bit more selfish, but one thing I pray for and would love other people too is that I can be a light for the people in my life, like my family and my friends. That's really like a consistent prayer, and so if people could join in, that would be much appreciated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, And there's nothing selfish about that.
Not at all.
Absolutely praying for that, and praying for the unique opportunity. I think each of us in each different stage in life and in different part times in our lives with Christ have different opportunities and so I even pray specifically for in this season that the Lord would be using you and allowing those around you to see the genuineness of that in a way that it draws them into Him. Right.
Right.
That's so encouraging. And next time we'll let you go first. Well, thank you guys so much for this time. Thank you so much for sharing your hearts and your lives, both with me, but just with us as a church family. It's been a huge encouragement to me, and I know it's going to be a huge encouragement for everyone as well. So what? Oh, the book thing. Good reminder. I was going to totally forget.
I want Ashley's answer. She's
all right. Well, but Ashley goes last this time.
Yeah, this will also be.
Good. I have an opportunity to apply my reverse order.
They both can read. So
okay. All right. What have you been reading, or what do you enjoy reading?
I'm not done with it, but I really like the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. I'm borrowing it from Josh right now, and it's a good time. I would recommend it to anyone, Christian or not. It's very entertaining and a lot of philosophical underpinnings that are pretty relevant.
Awesome. Cool. That's a great recommendation. Yeah, Josh.
I'm not this far into that book. I was doing better with my reading over summer, but I'm reading a book by R.B. Kuiper called, is that how you say his last name? Do you know? Have you heard that name?
Kuiper?
Yeah.
Kuiper? I don't know.
It's called God-Centered Evangelism.
Okay.
And it seems obvious.
I haven't read it.
Of course, evangelism should be God-centered, but I think a lot of times it's not, and it's about man, and so I think we should, I just have found benefit in that book, revealing my own, work or whatever as not going in the way that the Bible would direct me, and so that book is cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice. I gotta say, The Pursuit of God by A.W. Tozer.
Okay.
There's this chapter in there called The Gaze of the Soul, which I really love. It's about looking to Christ. And it's written very beautifully, and it hits the spot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you reminded me. That was worth his weight in gold getting those recommendations. You can pick those up at a bookstore near you.
Yeah.
But thanks so much. Thanks again, guys, for this time. And we're going to be praying for those things, and just so overwhelmed with thanksgiving to God for His faithfulness to all of you, and really to us as a church family, for the ways that the powerful ways He's continuing to work. So excited to see what He does in the seasons ahead. So thanks for the time. And thank you for listening. We appreciate it. We love you, and we miss you. And we'll see you virtually or in person on Sunday.